Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. If you could please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just because there was nobody else. Okay, welcome to the December 19th, 2019 Town of Riverhead Planning Board meeting. The first item on our agenda today is a discussion item for Chapter 219 for Donnelly residents.
Afternoon.
How you doing? How are you? Good. All right, John.
All right. The planning department has received and reviewed a Chapter 219 coastal erosion hazard line permit application to demolish an existing 981 square foot single-family dwelling and construct a new 2010 square foot single-family dwelling, install and attach new retaining wall to the landward side of the existing retaining wall, and reconstruct a stairway down the face of the bluff located within the RA 40 zoning use district, located at 668 Sound Shore Road, Riverhead, New York. Just to go over a timeline of events for this application, it was submitted January 29th, 2019. Site visit was conducted by planning staff and the applicant to inspect the project area on May 30th, 2019. The application was put on for discussion only on the planning board agenda for the June 6th, 2019 meeting. On the June 13th, 2019 meeting for the Zoning Board of Appeals, the board expressed concern with the retaining wall currently constructed on the property and asked if the applicant had a New York State DEC permit. The applicant had constructed the wall with no DEC permit and had not made an application to the town planning board for a 219 permit. The ZBA recommended that the applicant make an application to the DEC for a permit and that no determination can be given until the DEC makes its ruling. On June 20th, the application was again presented before the planning board. The board was updated by planning staff of the potential DEC violations, and they recommended a resolution to approve the project be adjourned until the DEC makes its ruling. On May 10th, the DEC issued a letter of non-jurisdiction for everything landward of the top of bluff and did express concern with the wooden tie wall. The DEC said no record was found about the retaining wall, and DEC sent tidal wetland specialists and conservation officers to visit the site. On June 20th, the DEC issued a warning letter to the property owner concerning the construction of a wooden retaining wall without DEC permits, and the applicant made an application for the wood retaining wall and proposed stairs down bluff on July 10th. The applicant has recently received a New York State DEC Article 25 tidal wetland permit effective November 15th, 2019 through November 14th, 2024 to install and attach the new retaining wall to the landward side of the existing retaining wall and reconstruct the stairway down the face of the bluff. With regards to seeker, the application is an unlisted action, coordinated review being optional and not recommended. Staff recommends the planning board assume lead agency status and issue a negative declaration as erosion will be controlled on site. The subject parcel is 0.32 acre parcel of land located on a private right-of-way known as Wells Way, which is on the north side of Sound Shore Road. The subject parcel is located within the RA 40 zoning use district, and the current zoning surrounding the adjacent properties is residential and located within the RA 40 zoning use district. The existing dwelling is situated in close proximity to the coastal erosion hazard line, and this is an existing condition. The site presently consists of a 981 square foot, one-story frame single-family residence with a rear screen porch and frame storage shed. The current dwelling has a letter of pre-existing use dated July 1st, 1999, and is non-conforming with the current code. The existing structure is closer to the CHEAL, whereas the new proposed structure would be further set back from the CHL. The wooden bulkhead and retaining wall are existing to reinforce and stabilize bluff and reduce erosion. and a wooden stairway leads from the top of the property to the beach, but is unsafe at this time for beach access. The applicant has noted that any modification to the existing structure will not conform to the dimensional requirements in the RA 40 zoning use district based on the lot's pre-existing non-conforming dimensions. The demolition and constructing of a new dwelling will bring the structure into conformance with the town code and further set back the house away from the coastal hazard erosion line. As per the applicant's design professional, the applicant is to construct a new 2,010 square foot home with septic system and install and attach new retaining wall landward of the CHEL and remove and place a new stairway down the face of the bluff. Access and staging, construction equipment materials, and all machinery will be from Wells Way, a private right-of-way. All machinery and equipment needed to construct all proposed improvements will be stored either off-site or on the landward side of the existing single-family dwelling on the subject lot. Erosion and silt control methods to prevent water quality impacts during construction will be on-site during the duration of the construction period and will consist of project limiting fence and hay bales or silt fence along the limit of clearing, grading, and ground disturbance. In a letter dated April 23rd, 2019, the Suffolk County Planning Commission found that the proposed application to be a matter of local determination as there appears to be no significant countywide or intercommunity impacts. In a letter dated December 11th, 2019, the town's consulting engineer had no objection taken to the proposed improvement. As I stated earlier, they did receive the Article 25 DEC permit effective November 15th, concurrently through the 14th of 2024. Staff recommends the planning board classify the action as an unlisted action and assume lead agency without the need for coordinated review under SECRA and issue a negative declaration for the proposed action. Staff also recommends that no approval be granted until the Zoning Board of Appeals has heard and made a determination for an area variance. The following conditions are recommended as part of the planning approval. Suffolk County Health Department Services approval for the sanitary discharge is required. Prior to the commencement of construction, the applicant must schedule an appointment with the town and Riverhead's environmental planner to conduct an on-site inspection and verify the installation of erosion control measures are in place. And that no building permit shall be issued until the chairman of the planning board signs Mylar copies of the site plan titled Survey of the Property Situate Jamesport, prepared by Meets and Bounds Surveying, last dated June 11th, 2019, a site plan titled Retaining Wall and Stairs Repairs, prepared by Riley Tarantino Engineering, last dated November 5th, 2019. And prior to the signature of the Mylars, the following conditions be met: that 6 additional sets of the site plan prepared by Meets and Bounds last dated June 11th, 2019 be submitted, as well as 6 sets of the site plan of the retaining wall and stairs last dated November 5th be submitted. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant must retain a licensed New York State environmental professional engineer to remain on-site and oversee the installation and construction of a new retaining wall landward of the coastal erosion hazard line, the attachment of the new landward wall to the existing retaining wall to ensure the integrity of the bluff remains and no further disturbance is created. The environmental engineer shall document all phases of construction and installation of the retaining wall system with photographs and field notes and must submit them to the town environmental planner. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, the contractor shall provide photographs of Wells Way, a private way right-of-way depicting pre-construction conditions of the road, and submit them to the town's environmental planner for approval. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the licensed New York State environmental professional engineer must submit a signed, stamped, and sealed post-construction analysis of the new landward retaining wall attached to the landward side of the existing retaining wall, certifying that all completed work conforms to the approved plans, design, and any structural improvements has not impaired or damaged the integrity of the bluff. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the contractor shall provide photographs of Wells Way, a private way-to-way depicting post-construction conditions. The applicant shall not commence any construction activity seaward of the top of bluff between April 1st and August 31st in order to avoid an incidental take of an endangered species as regulated by the New York State DEC. Any access to the beach or activity within the bluff area within these dates will require an incidental take permit from the DEC. The applicant shall not conduct any tree cutting or clearing between April 2nd and October 31st of any calendar year may result in the take of a species or their habitat within the meaning of environmental conservation law. NYDEC has documented the summer occurrence of the northern long-eared bat, a species listed as threatened by both New York State and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service within 1.5 miles of the project location. And the contractor shall remediate and repair any damage to roadway caused by the staging of construction equipment and storage of construction materials.
Do you have a copy of this?
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same
I
question.
read it.
You
Couple
agree?
times. Yes.
Okay. Wells Way, that's not a public road, it's a private right-of-way?
No, it's a right of way. There's 1, 2, I believe 3 houses. It goes in right off of Sound Shore and then heads west.
Private,
Yeah. Yep.
and you have legal access to, is this your house or are you the?
No, I'm the contractor.
Contractor,
Yes.
okay.
So these 10 recommendations, it probably would behoove you to get a copy of this, I imagine.
Well, he has.
I have.
He has, he
I have.
just doesn't
It's on
Yeah,
my
he doesn't
computer.
have it
Yeah,
with
oh,
him.
yeah.
I see, you said you read it.
Yep.
Surprised you're using treated wood. Most of those bulkheads are now plastic with wood frames. It's gonna be all wood?
The new one?
Yeah.
No, the new one's vinyl sheathing and piles.
Okay.
The wall that's there now,
Oh, it's
the
wood. Okay.
illegal wall
Okay.
is
The-
pressure treated.
The sewage, is it a traditional sewer or is it one of the new
It's, no,
nitrogen clear ones?
should have put copies for everyone, I apologize.
John, did you read recently that the piping Clover may come?
Was that septic?
Yes.
Yeah.
The list of the dangerous.
I didn't inspect it.
Yeah.
Is any of the construction, stairs, walls, anything gonna inhibit the public's access to the beach?
No.
Just for the record.
Oh, it's,
Yeah, I know it's
it's
landlocked,
steep.
but, you know, just get it on the record.
Yep.
Okay, we have to work around the plover and the bats.
Yep. Which is a non-issue. The one thing I would bring up is we're talking about erosion control. Construction of the bulkhead, it's gonna be pretty difficult. It's not gonna be difficult to do the work, but we need to demolish the house first to even get access. At
That way
that
you can
point,
get
we would
these-
put it up, but we would have to take it back off just to get the bulkhead work done and then reinstall it.
Okay.
Is that
Can't-
if
there's
that's
no way you can
understood.
get
There's
around
just
onto
no
the
room,
beach?
there's no way for me
Like
to.
going down the end of Wells Way
No,
and
no.
go around, no?
I'm sorry? No, there is no way around.
Yeah, no,
I
not
don't-
around, not yours, but if you went further down to the west.
No, that's the answer.
Swing around.
It's the last property.
Oh,
I'm sure you're gonna have to apply common sense when you do it.
Of course. I just wanted to say it now, so it's understood. There won't be any disturbance to the bluff.
You don't
whatsoever.
anticipate any importation or exportation of soil?
No, it's the wall that's there. If-
Not so much in the wall only, but between the wall and the house construction.
What about it?
Between the wall and the house construction, because you're building a much bigger house.
Right. No, the house won't be built until the wall is built. We couldn't put the house possibly.
Okay, but
We'd
during
have
that.
to demolish the house first, do have the silt control in place, take it out, just to do the wall itself, not the
Right.
stairs. Stairs aren't an issue. Reinstall it, and then build the house.
So, this says new 2010 square foot home with septic system, but you provided that the one that's existing is in good working order,
It
so
is.
you're gonna reuse it, so.
Yes.
But he's not doing a new septic system,
No.
right? Are you connected to public water?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It should be on the surveys, or the site plans.
Okay.
I don't have anything else.
Any other questions?
no?
All right. So we'll vote on the secret determination today and then move forward.
Okay, so we're at ZBA on the 23rd, and then we're back with you on the 3rd or 6th, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
first meeting in February.
Okay.
Is this a public vote, or?
No, no.
Do I skedaddle?
No, it's not
Okay.
gonna be an issue, you don't have to
Okay.
stay.
All right,
Just
you don't
email
need.
me a copy.
I'll email this to
Unless
you.
you're getting paid by the hour, then you can stay.
I'm back with more cookies.
Take care.
Thank you.
Have a nice holiday.
Yeah, you
everyone.
too.
Thank you.
Jefferson, do you wanna get Bob?
Chris, if you can help on.
Okay, next item on the agenda is subdivision map of Baiting Hollow Club 2 on the roadways. Right.
Take one, pass it down.
How you doing, guys?
Good, how are you?
Very good.
Bob Kuzakevich is gonna be joining us today. He's got some historical knowledge of this application. Included in your packet was the resolution for final conditional approval, along with, and I don't know if Vinnie, the last performance bond estimate I got from you was, I have it, Vinnie did do a performance bond review, and I don't have a copy of it. Vinnie, do you have a copy of that, your latest one? Yeah, it was reduced down to $405,000, but, okay, good, all right. This application received preliminary subdivision approval, back in, 2007, and then it got final conditional approval. After that, for 29 lots, this is the subdivision as you enter into the Baiting Hollow Club. The golf course, as you come down off of Sound Avenue, you take right onto Warner Drive, and then ultimately a left-hand turn into the golf course entrance, and then the private residential community to the north of that. It was originally intended that this was gonna be a private road layout. It was approved as such. We have a letter now dated November 14th from Charles Cuddy, the applicant's attorney. The new owners or contract vendees, I'm not sure what the status of it is at this time, want to dedicate the roads to the town. There's a long history to this. There's obviously impacts in terms of, and questions regarding the subdivision and also the golf course. The two are kind of tied together. So I just prepared a very brief list of just really initial issues and concerns about the request. One is that the roads were approved as for them being private and not offered for dedication. Does CHIO, the highway superintendent, want to accept them? Two, the roads have been constructed with a base coat only. Top coat has not been installed at this time. Does the base coat comply with the required standards for a public street? I don't know if any corings have been done. There's some potholes out there. I know that Vinnie has inspected the property, and I'm gonna have him speak to that. The existing entrance and exit to the subdivision to the golf course are one-way streets. It's one way to the north, and then to the south is one-way exit south. There's a large grass island separating the two lanes. Who's going to own and maintain that? Staff does not recommend the town take ownership of that and be responsible for all that mowing. There are street lights throughout the subdivision. Not sure if they work or not. They've been there for a very long time. When I went out there, it was daytime, so I have no idea if they do work, and I don't know whether or not they comply with town standards for street lights. There are street trees installed, but obviously this time of the year, it's difficult to tell whether or not they're alive or not. There are numerous areas with the shoulders of the streets that are gonna need to be seeded or hydro-seeded. Spare dirt right now. There are a lot of golf course uses amenities on some of the residential lots. For example, lots 13 and 14 have construction equipment and material on them. At one point, it looked like it had paved parking on them, so I'm not the saddest of what that is. There are actually drainage ponds from the golf course extending onto the private property, and they have drainage easements to account for that. There are no street signs installed. They're gonna need to be one-way signs installed, stop signs, that sort of thing. There are there are private easements now within the proposed public right-of-way. Numerous lots, have private slope easements. I don't know if you've ever driven up into that area. This is gonna be one difficult subdivision to build houses on. There are a lot of steep slopes. So they're gonna be, all the trees are gonna have to be cut down, and the lots are gonna be like severely graded. If they wanna have flat pad sites, or they're gonna construct them to fit the natural terrain, but there's some really undulating,
How many homes are any homes built
No.
yet?
Nope. And then, another issue was, access to some of the lots, which streets that they're gonna take access from. For example, it's lots 2, 19, 20, and 21 should not have direct driveway access onto Warner Drive, but should, enter into the subdivision, enter out, through the main, driveway. And then my last recommendation is, we need to hear from the highway and superintendent. I know that Vinnie's spoken with him, the town attorney, who's not here, so Bob is here. And then also, and then Vinnie, and then we need to do further analysis on our end also, not just with the subdivision, but also with the golf course, as well. So that's just a brief summary of the request. The applicant's here.
So we're still in preliminary, is that right?
No, they've gotten final approval. The map is filed at this point.
So why do you want to change it to town roads? Why is that being requested so late in the process here?
At the time, just real quick, so, Pete and Jerry, you guys know us, this is John, he represents Darby, the owners, and we're contract vendees of the piece, so you know. And, but this, originally, the golf course and the subdivision was one together. And it was supposed to go simultaneously together, but apparently something went wrong and it split.
The partners split up. So it was all a one group. So we're gonna build this clubhouse, beautiful clubhouse. We're gonna have all these lots, and we're gonna sell lots and build houses and sell memberships. And it's all gonna be one happy family.
And it was gonna be a association.
And I believe if you look back, and I could be wrong on this, but originally, I think when this first went to, in front of you guys, they were going to be public roads. I'm not sure, but I think so. And then initially, and then the partners got together and had this master plan in their heads of, look, we're gonna create something special here and very private. So we're gonna keep the roads private too. Well, that's not what happened. And now we have a golf course, that comes down this private road and has access down this private road day in and day out. And the situation is, how are we gonna sell houses and ask people to pay for the maintenance and upkeep of this road that the golf course is primarily using? You know, they have all kinds of traffic back and forth there on a daily basis, and to ask the people to be responsible for the golf course's wear and tear, it just doesn't seem, likely.
The entrance
You know?
and exit that's there now, is that private as well?
Yes, it's part of the subdivision. The subdivision actually owns their access, and they have an easement over
that
John's access.
Bob, do you remember any of that? Was in the original concept, was it?
This was originally done in 2007, 2006. I was happily employed in private sector, so I don't have any personal knowledge of this particular application.
Through this whole process.
Was it originally going to be dedicated?
No,
Never.
no, that much I can tell you.
Well,
That's
it
what I
doesn't
had
matter
heard,
because
yeah.
they switched it anyway before it was
And
approved.
I just, Jeff has kind of bulleted some specifics here, but I think there are two things that needs to concern or that are before the board right now. When this came in front of the planning board, the project or the program involved creating a housing development associated with the golf course use. So the, I have a business plan or et cetera, was to develop this like a little golf community, give them a membership, you got your house on the golf course or close proximity to the golf course. And That was how it was going to be marketed. Through the review of this layout, subdivision, road improvements, there was a bit of a back and forth with the design of it and the planning board relative to the layout, the way that the drainage was designed, even how you were accessing some of these lots due to the topography that was here. If you notice in this little segment back here, you had this, what was called a service drive. And though I never really fully understood that, but it was a means of being able to access a few of these lots, especially the ones on these steeper slope properties, to kind of have a back entrance. And may it been that, maybe people could be served with, I don't know, their landscapers, or people that were coming to drop food off, or trying to get up into a very kind of a high-end type development. With respect to the comments that Jeff has pointed out as far as construction and where we are, it's clear to me the roads are not finished. There are some improvements that have not been completed, i.e. the top course. There are some deficiencies with what's out there now over the results of the course of time. But I think the biggest stumbling block here with what is being proposed, that it become public roadways, is the way that the drainage system has been designed. The drainage system with respect to the containment areas are all located on the golf course, back over here, behind these lots. So I think in moving forward with a proposal to potentially make these public right-of-ways, I think the applicant needs to address how one would gain access to this. And I think that, besides the engineering, because I think the engineering is here of what the capacity was supposed to be and the level of stormwater containment, but it deals more with a practical standpoint and logistics. How does the highway superintendent get back into these areas to basically maintain them?
And the question is who's going to be ultimately responsible for it? Is it a result of the golf course draining into it?
And if you look right here, on this approved map, it's very plain as day. These are to remain private. And I'm not saying that concessions were made through design of this subdivision with respect to meeting the standards of the code, meaning how wide they are, 28 feet. Do they have curb? Are you containing 2 inches of stormwater? I believe that design is here, but it's more of a logistics, practical, a way of how, if this becomes private, how do we maintain it?
Public, you mean?
Public, yes,
Okay.
excuse me. So I think that is something that may involve the highway superintendent chiming in, town attorney's office, with respect to the process where from day one, this was gonna be private roads. And now that
And drainage.
seems to change.
That includes the drainage.
Vinnie?
I do want, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, John.
No, I was just gonna say, I do wanna add that those ponds, or the drainage, they straddle they straddle the property line. So it's half on the development, half on the golf course.
Mr.
Makes it
Cuddy,
even
if he
worse.
was here, he had made a suggestion, that an HOA be formed, and we have easements that are on that map that give the right for the property owners of the subdivision to access those drainage ponds. It goes all the way around the outside of the property line.
Both sides.
And it suggested that with those easements in place, that an HOA would be formed, and the subdivision, people living in the subdivision, an HOA would be formed, and they would be responsible in conjunction with the golf course to maintain the ponds, which they've already been doing. So the town's responsibility would be for the road.
But they're tied.
Is that possible?
They're tied together.
Okay.
I mean, look at the logistics of it all. The drainage isn't working.
Because what happens, 5 years into it, there's a flooding issue or a collapse issue, and they're gonna come to the town because we approved this arrangement that you're explaining.
Okay.
I'd rather much see, and Bob could chime in on the legal portion of it.
Sorry, guys.
Is everything designed to the current standards? Can a PE sign off on it? do we have the right access to those drainage structures? You know, is the highway super, in favor of it? And I think, once we get those questions answered, we may have a path to move forward. I mean, I don't think any of us want to see that just sit there and be stagnant forever. I'm sure this got caught in the crash of 2008, and that's why nothing's happened. And now, there's some potential there, and you wanna make it a nice neighborhood, so as long as everything can be, signed off by a PE, that it's to the proper standards, and the town, signs off on it as far as highway and legal, I think we would have a path to go forward. And also, just like to add to your comments too, the water infrastructure's there too, right, the public water?
Yes.
So that should also be listed, because a lot of times, the infrastructure falls into disarray from plows and the base coat, and all of the valves and everything are broken, so we just need to make sure that that is addressed also for the water district, if they eventually sign off on everything.
I just have a question. If there was a desire to create an HOA that would be responsible for these drainage areas, what would stop you from creating an HOA that would be responsible for the roadways and own the roadways?
Because the access is across those roadways for the golf course. So that you're wear and tearing on that roadway for full access. That's the only access the golf course has.
So the golf course has an easement over the property, but has
That's
no
right.
responsibility to take care of it.
Well, that's gotta be dealt with, obviously.
Well, the
We
golf,
share it.
so, we've done, a handful of subdivisions, so those conditions, that were in place that the golf course and this subdivision had to abide by to be able to get COs and move forward. I don't know where this fell out of place, but there weren't easements that were put into place where the golf course was able to get their COs without the right covenants be filed on the easements. So right now, these easements are out there, and it was.
They're on the map.
They're on the map.
But they're not executed.
But they're not executed.
But again, that's part of the diligence that the town attorney has to do, or maybe they have, that we need to do, because if you look at the final condition of approval, it lists a host of easements and
Correct.
filings that need to be done. What the status of them are is really not.
'Cause we've approached the guys at the golf course, it's just, it's so tough, that they don't, they kinda wanna wash their hands. But meanwhile.
But what about
it was-
their entrance?
It was all, correct, their
They-
entrance.
they have an easement.
It's all one side.
They filed their easement
But they're
for them.
required to maintain it, right?
No.
Okay, so
But they are maintaining
if
it.
their golfers can't get in, they're out of business, so if something happens to the road, I mean.
Right.
Jerry, who owns the two one-way roads today, the golf course or the subdivision?
Subdivision.
But
And
the
they-
golf course, when they did the split, when they said, when they didn't get along anymore, somebody was a little brighter than the other guy, and just took all the rights of everything.
They gave themselves an all-access
So to the best of your
easement.
knowledge, is there an easement, does the golf course have an easement to traverse and send vehicle traffic through these?
Yes.
So that's executed
Well, I
right
think
now.
they would have
Yes.
to.
Yes.
based
So
upon
as far as
final
getting a
condition
CO
approval.
then, they demonstrated that they have the rights to pass through that.
Yes.
In addition to that, I don't think the map could have been filed without the easements being in place.
But
You're
that's what
saying
you
they
would-
weren't recorded?
They
They
weren't.
were not, the access across that one-way road
Because the
is
map should have been
recorded.
filed, but the final condition of approvals required that there be easement
For
to-
drainage.
to allow the clubhouse to utilize Club Drive and also for the drainage. At the very least, both final conditional approvals required that, and that's the reason why I say it was clear to me, even though I wasn't here, that road was intended to remain private. Why would you need the easement to get to the clubhouse if it was gonna become a public highway? And that was something that the planning board considered and required the applicant, both Baiting Hollow Club for the clubhouse as well as Baiting Hollow Club for the subdivision to do.
Well, they probably did that, or their mindset, again, I'm not the attorney here, was likely because the result of this when it was built out, is that there would be an HOA. And that these right-of-ways that are shown on this map would be owned by an HOA.
Right.
And that the golf course would have the rights to go through those. You know, these are questions now that probably are, you know, whether they were part of the record when we were reviewing it or not, but obviously these are critical to the development of this site and how it ties to the golf course
Yeah.
use.
That was probably the original intent, but when things fell apart, they had to go this route.
Well, when it fell apart, they should've came back to the town and said, this is what we're doing, we're splitting it, how do you want us to proceed?
So is
They
Club
didn't
Drive
do that.
proposed to be a town road too now at this point? So how would you access what sounds like a non-filed easement, okay, or non-executed easement, private roadway to get to public town roads?
Well, that would, I would think that, you know, again, I'm a little confused because we're talking, this is what you own, correct? Or whomever.
Yes,
Yes.
that's what the subdivision owns.
Right, so they own, and is this all in one ownership right now?
Yes.
I believe, yes.
So what you have is, this is all owned by one entity. These roads are partially constructed, or I should say substantially constructed as per this plan. There's still some more work to be done. And that this property owner has the rights to go through these roadways to get to their site.
That's correct.
So the idea is that whether they, at one point it would appear that they had some interest in the development of this property and these lots. Now they don't. And with respect to what was being proposed here, nothing really changes other than the fact that this guy seems to be off the hook a little bit as far as maintenance of those roadways and construction of those roadways. Again, I don't know legally where that all is.
What's happening is, when we approached the guys from the golf course about the easement throughout the entire piece that joins both parcels, we're willing to do our share and maintain those easements, build them, they're not even finished, create them.
Talking about the ponds.
The
What are we
ponds,
talking about? We're talking about the
ponds,
easement that.
all that.
This little dotted line all
Yeah.
around, so that easement there to get to these 3 ponds.
This easement that runs all the way around, and a golf course, and these ponds are mostly on, like this one's on on the subdivision side. This pond is primarily on the golf course side. This one over here is split in half, half and half, right? But this easement, they never filed.
Now they give us a hard time.
They were never filed.
They were never filed. They filed their own easement to get, an all-access easement to get to their golf course.
What
So that
legal-
easement's been filed.
Right.
That was
And-
recorded.
And what
Yes.
leads you to believe that we, the town, are gonna be able to go and gain an easement from these people for these roadways, for
Of course,
these
they
trails?
never comply with the final subdivision.
Don't they have to comply with this map?
With the final
They have a
subdivision.
CO, and part of their CO was to file these easements, and they didn't.
As a condition.
And now they're holding they're holding John hostage, basically, you know, cause
Their answers-
they don't wanna file it. So if the
As
town
anything
took it
else.
over, it's another reason, now the town takes over the
There's
drainage.
a lot of legal
We gave them a few
homework
lots
that has to.
Oh, I'm sure it would loosen them up a little.
Yeah.
Where is the?
Now we're talking
where's
about
the
taking over
clubhouse?
improvements
Where's
on
the
a property owner
clubhouse?
who's not at this meeting.
Right about here somewhere.
Well, I think, well,
See, we're willing to work with the golf
yeah,
course.
but your attorney, their attorney and your attorney really need to come up with a plan forward here. I mean, we can't come in there and forcibly take something that's private, so,
Mr. Cuddy's tried many times, and our attorney, we have.
but we can't force
two
the issue. I
attorneys
mean,
on
this is,
No, but the town, there's certain compliances that they had to comply with that were never done. I mean, it's a right
I think
that they
that's-
have to do.
No, I understand that,
I
but
think
we
the
don't.
CO, they shouldn't have been had a CO without those,
And I think
easements
he
in
should be
place.
talking to the,
Anybody else would say, no problem, yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
To the-
I'm not opposed to
I
taking
wanna
roads
say
over, I'm not saying that,
To
but
the
you
GO,
just have
he's
to
not
have the
gonna
right
accept
legal
that.
path to do
I
it.
don't think-
But
I
you're
think
not
you-
opposed to it.
I'm not, but
think-
again,
I
we
don't
need a lot of
think-
questions answered
But that's
first.
exactly.
Yeah, there's gonna be some
We
homework.
don't know how to.
He doesn't have
be-
the-
Yeah, and you're not opposed to taking the drainage as long as.
Well,
you
the
have
drainage
access.
sounds a little tricky,
for the
because,
town.
I mean, is there room in there to maintain them? If they get filled with silt in 10 years, how do you get in there and clean them out, because you're gonna be stuck?
Not for from a capacity standpoint, but just from a design standpoint, from maintenance, logistics, was not set up in a manner that would offer this to be a public roadway. That's just my opinion.
Well, Vinnie, wasn't the access around the outer rim to gain access to them ponds? And this access across this property here, to this
But I
pond?
think what Vinnie's point is,
Here's
while that might be
here's where
true,
we're
it's-
coming from.
Okay.
And again, I'm just trying to go from memory here, but the bottom line is this.
Okay.
You had a golf course and a subdivision that came in here, working together to create this product. And we raised certain comments through this process of, you know, how you're gonna gain access, easements, whatever. And that was between these guys and this, and whatever this was, whether it was the same ownership or different ownership. You've got an HOA that in essence would be created here, that would be responsible for the roadways, private roadways, and we worked with this. It sounds like someone, because of what had happened, things got, the ball dropped, et cetera. But what's stuck here is, it seems to me, and no disrespect to you, now you're coming to the town to say, help us out here. We weren't the investors in this one. This wasn't our project. This is something we were reviewing. And at this juncture, it seems to, I mean, you know, if you can't get an easement from these guys, you know, I don't understand how one would go, how the town, if we got involved, would be able to put any pressure on them to give you guys an easement or whoever has rights to this property.
I think it was a condition of the final map. I think it's straightforward. Mr. Cuddy kinda made it sound, listen, if you.
Wasn't
wanna
it
follow-
So what
How
do
they
you wanna
wanna do
do?
it
You
was
wanna,
when
you
they
wanna
would-
Yeah, go
abandon
in
the
front of
map?
judge
I'm
and
not,
say, listen, follow the
what's the
condition.
intent here?
Why won't they do it? You know what I mean? It's part of the condition from day one.
Why isn't there jeopardy, why isn't there CO in jeopardy if they don't comply with their
don't know,
obligations
that's-
I'm
to
not
that
sure
map?
what their conditions of their site plan
We have
approval
that
were.
information?
No, that's the reason,
Because
I
you
said my
have-
staff report is gonna be farther review of the golf club, cause I did not review that as part of this, cause this has been a compressed time. That's one reason why I said in my presentation, we gotta look at
Do you
the
know
club, the
conditions
conditions of
of the
approval
site
for the golf club.
I worked on the site plan long time ago, and, you know, memory is not great, but
Yeah.
I don't remember anything about conditions of the site plan being,
Republic.
you know,
On the
maintenance of these
Yeah, it seems
drainage
that-
areas.
That's why I asked the question, because the conditions that we're complaining about seem to impact the subdivision approval more than the site plan and raise questions as to the viability of the subdivision, more so than the site plan approval. If these were conditions of subdivision approval, because a typical subdivision, you wouldn't want ponds in the back, you
No.
would want a couple of drainage basins, whereas you're gonna lose lots. So it
So
seems to-
it was, I understand what you're saying, it was approved with the, you know, understanding that it was gonna be privately maintained, so the planning board or town probably
Yeah.
wasn't as concerned with how they were gonna maintain stormwater runoff
Correct.
and maintenance of the
Listen,
structures.
You're required to contain 2 inches of runoff for this development. They demonstrated that they could do it here and they can do it there. The engineering worked, you know,
Done.
It's been
done,
working.
here you go. You guys are responsible to maintain it, you know, whatever.
Bob, is it possibly a civil matter between them and the, you know, is that
Yeah,
something?
I'll talk to Mr. Cuddy, but I think certainly there might be some cause of action from them against them. I'm not sure who's, even the players here, who's the current owner of record on this. Is it still Darby?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So, but my question still is, Club Drive would not become a town road if this,
I don't
Came-
think that was the intent of what was done
So
by
then
the
how
planning
could
board
you
back in-
have-
They're asking us to take it on as a
It
public
would be
road.
though.
no, that's what would it be part of a town road if everything played
Yes.
out?
Yes, that's what they're requesting.
Are you asking just Club Drive, or are you asking for?
Well,
all
I
subdivisions?
didn't know, it seemed as though Club Drive wasn't, because you said they already had their access and they could care less about anything else.
They have access over it as an easement.
As an easement.
Okay, so
Yes.
Club Drive and these roads
Yeah,
would
everything,
be
all the
public.
roads that you see up to this property line, Stan, and this,
How wide is the easement around those ponds? Or the proposed
It
easement?
varies, if you take a look,
Then that one area gets a little bit larger.
Yeah, so, and they vary.
You gotta highlight, I'm gonna highlight.
Let me show you a highlighter. Stan, Ken here.
That's the plat itself.
You can see the easements vary.
Well,
Here-
as far as the drainage
Yeah.
easement goes, it's the one that, this is the line that basically,
Correct. But then
Comes
if you,
into the golf
if
course.
if you see for this example, this lot, that green line, there is no easement, but then there's an easement here,
yeah,
and then.
those are grading easements, that has to do with the construction of the roadway. With respect to the drainage, here's the property line of the subdivision. And that, this dashed line is what encroaches into the golf course and defines those drainage easements. So with the construction of this pond, it's within the drainage easement.
Who owns the
But
public water there?
This easement also, the drainage easement also goes behind these lots.
Here?
That's,
Did the town get easements for
Right.
their water mains on the private roads?
that,
We were supposed to.
Because that could be some leverage, one way or the other.
well, you bring up a good point there,
If they were never recorded,
historically, there's been some issues or with the water district or voices from the water district that say, when you guys approve these subdivision roads, you should approve them with utility easements.
Mhm.
Because the reality is we go out, we
Mhm.
put our infrastructure in there on the notion that that these roads are going to be fully improved and at one point dedicated to you. And if that should not play out, we've got our infrastructure in this roadbed that is privately owned.
So I mean, I think it's safe to assume for a minute here that if they didn't record the easements for the drainage, they didn't do it for the utilities.
I mean, if it's a personality thing between the old owners, have you guys tried to reach out as the new?
We sat with them 2, 3
Wouldn't
times.
that mean
Yeah.
if they had
John
recorded
was at
it,
one of the
they're
meetings
supposed
that
to-
won't- They're just, they got theirs and see you later.
But it may be some leverage for you too.
I
if-
think that's great, I think that's perfect.
Send them, well, I mean, I don't
We just
wanna.
wanna clear this
Yeah,
up.
we just.
I know that, but if you can't
don't
get
have a
anywhere,
title- You don't have a
if you
title
can't get
report
anywhere
at this point, do you?
negotiating, you have to
Yeah,
put it
we
all
have
on
a
the
title-
table.
title report?
Yes, we do.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
And everybody keeps
and-
saying the golf.
And does it show that there's an easement to the benefit of the Riverhead Water District?
I don't know, I can find out.
Mr. Cuddy has it though.
Okay.
And Dick may know too.
Yeah, Rick keeps saying,
Well, that's
why
what
did
I'm
the
asking.
clubhouse get C of O without the easement being recorded? The same question can be asked, why was the subdivision map filed without the easement? Because the easement does go onto the subdivision, and the map was filed, and you're saying it was done without the easement.
Are there signed maps?
Yeah.
So there is a signed filed map at this time
Yeah.
that was filed with the county clerk's office?
Yes.
All right. What's that map number, if we know?
I don't have it with me.
Just so you know, we'd be willing, we're trying to work with them.
Well,
Make it, cause you're right next door to each other, that could be a happy,
Yeah, they could
Situation
benefit from your
with everybody.
residents, yeah.
correct,
I can think you got a lot of i's and t's to cross, but like the chairman said, we're listening.
I think the
Bob,
the
if
utility
easements were not
easements may
recorded,
give
how
you
could
some
it be approved?
leverage.
File the map. How can the map
Because
be
if they
approved?
only have,
Final conditional approval, if you read number 4 about
Who owns the
petition
road
of the
now?
water
The
district and
subdivision?
stuff like that, so.
Yeah.
The
Then they could
conditions
tell
were in there.
golf course they
It's a
can't
matter
use
of
it.
really kind of
Right.
going and
Not
doing,
having an easement.
going through
Okay,
a
so-
check sheet of what's done, what's not
so
done.
obviously it was done to some extent
They
because the
didn't
water
file.
mains were in and paid for,
No, I
and the
think
work
they
is
said they
done.
didn't record the easement
But
to the clubhouse,
if
that
the utility easements weren't ever recorded, and they only have a right to use the driveway, is their water service taken off that driveway?
I would say yes.
Well, there's your leverage. So now you have something to bargain with.
Stands the man.
Who the owner, the golf course?
Yeah, well, the golf
Rigo.
course,
It's owned by Rigo and
Rigo
Chris,
Renee.
Renee, and,
Vinay.
and one other. What's that?
VENE.
So
Renee.
listen, it quickly goes from what's in it for us to, well, you have to work with us now.
and it's so trivial, just do the right thing, that's all we want them to do is do the right thing.
It was already filed, it was, it
You
wasn't
know.
something, but,
Looks
it
like a no-brainer.
shakedown.
Yeah, but it's been a battle, 3 times we met, went nowhere.
Listen, I don't think it benefits the golf course to have this stagnant for so many years either.
No.
Yeah, well,
We cleaned it up, I mean, just to go back to your point, I mean, all the debris, I don't know if you've been there recently.
concerned about the
Today.
driveway.
Right, oh, you were, okay, so we kinda cleaned it up, but the golf course
Oh,
still
yeah, we
continues
had-
to.
We
Well, for example, the golf course is using these lots over here.
Yeah.
They're using for parking and storage of sand and material. They were parking cars out there.
So actually, that's, you know, I'm gonna have to
We got
send them
most
another
of
letter
that,
on that one.
you know, we
You
cleaned
just
up
look at
the
this
site
sort
up.
of- you look
Have
at
you
the
been
area.
down there in the last couple of months?
Today.
Oh, okay.
As I was saying, 'cause we really cleaned it up.
We cleaned it up.
And there was a bobcat down there, some
Excellent.
sand being moved around today.
Yeah, he used, I think they stockpile this sand there
So
for
they're
the
not
sand
supposed to.
traps.
We've actually given
No,
them
they
notice.
shouldn't be.
But
out
if you
front,
look
it's
historically, they were
clean.
using it for
I
other
live on
purposes
Warren Court.
in prior years.
Right,
I
we
live at
cleaned
the
all
end
that
of
up,
Court.
you know?
So,
We cleaned up the shoulders, we located all the water mains, all the, you know, I mean, if you drive through there, it looks like it's ready to build, you know, it looks pretty good.
We just-
I mean, it's, you know, the lighting has to be addressed, the shoulders, the curb, the drainage boxes should be lifted a little bit.
Yeah, typical stuff.
A little bit of the curbs are broken out.
I just, you know, again,
Trees
as
are in
long as
good
we can
shape.
work out all the easements, I mean, I'm not opposed to it, providing that everything meets the town design codes. And I think the biggest obstacle, even after all of that is done and to standards, is access to those ponds. We have to work something out where the town's comfortable.
This is
It's
where-
unique.
that's a big concern, because if, Vinnie, do any of the road, runoff go into this pond?
It all does.
Okay, so now. the
Through
new-
drainage structures, there's outfalls, right, through the easements, or
Well, no, this
supposed
is-
easements?
It's positive drainage here, positive drainage here.
Right, but from the road to there.
Right, there's catch basins and piping system that basically comes through here and it goes.
Are they, is standing water in all those ponds?
No, not the center one, the center one is an overflow.
So Bob, if the town runoff goes into those ponds, are we responsible for maintaining those ponds?
Here and here.
And we have no idea how.
Vinnie, if
Yeah.
I remember correctly, this,
Right,
this
just
one
like
here
a-
is
just
an
like a
overflow,
recharge basin.
and there's supposed to
Is there a
be a
chance that the highway
drainage
superintendent might not
ditch
accept it?
that's pitched
I
back.
Do we want to?
to here.
Do we want to?
From this one to this one, the rise, like when
What's
this
the
gets
base
high
of the
enough.
road?
Again, I
it
gotta
runs
look at
back.
the plan.
And this one
It's one thing
runs
just
from
about
there
snow
into
plowing the
this
road,
as
it's
an
another back.
overflow.
We met with Gio down there.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been down there twice.
Yeah, we've met him there. He
All right, so-
was pretty receptive.
Okay.
Let's, we're gonna keep going with our meeting here. I think we gave you a lot to digest. I think we have some questions that we need to be answered on the original map. And we'll circle back when we both have some progress.
Okay,
All right.
appreciate your time.
Great holiday. Someday you may get it.
Last Christmas, guys.
Good. Yep. Enjoy your holiday, boys.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Come back with an easy one, huh? I'll see you guys. All right, item 3 on the agenda, Merritt's Creek Townhouses.
How's Karen today?
Good, how are you? Good.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Okay, what is this?
Just to give you a little update on this, before we get into it. I had forwarded elevations for the project quite a while ago. The applicant wanted to go to the ARB, and I just wanted to touch base with the board to make sure that was okay with the board, and I did get replies from Stan, and I believe 2 other people saying it's okay for them to go to the ARB. I have not done a site plan report yet on this. We did do, coordinated review, and I've been forwarding I forwarded all the replies to the applicant. So, we got the, recommendations of the ARB, and I did forward them to the board. It may be a little hard to read with the writing. So I will translate. 2 buildings along East Main Street. Plan should be flipped. Front entrance and elevation should face Main Street. Dining room / kitchen entrance should face parking. Applicant to resubmit. So I did give everyone a little packet in addition to the information I emailed. It's this, 1 by 17. So there's a site plan, there's floor plans, and there's elevations. So just to be clear, all of the buildings and units, you enter the main entrance is proposed to be from the parking area. And you enter into the dining room, I believe, area.
No, the
Living
living
room
room. Yep.
area, yes. And then the kitchen and the dining room area are to the back. So if you look at the elevations for building A and B, it's EL 1.4 and EL 1.2. It's a little confusing the way the elevations are labeled, because the Main Street elevation is called the rear elevation.
Mhm.
So, and the parking, the other elevation, the front, is the one facing the parking lot. So I think in the future we need to revise that a little bit to make it more clear. But as you can see, the Main Street elevation to the bottom has these little arches over the doors. And the whole intent is to make the front of the building facing Main Street look like it's a, you know, a main entrance, even if it's not. So I think this kind of, you know, meets that intent. So to get back to the ARB.
This was done, after the comments from the.
No,
They-
no, they want us, this is our design intent, was to make the rear of the building look like the front of the building facing Main Street.
Right.
But their comments was they want the actual floor plan flipped, which I'm a little confused with that, because I thought ARB was more with the aesthetics of the exterior of the building, not necessarily the function of the floor plan.
That is a little
There was a page with ARB comments attached to this.
Yeah,
I
so
seem to
did
have
they offer a
missing
reason-
mine suddenly. Does anybody have an extra copy you can?
Well,
Oh, yeah,
No, the actual ARB comments.
This would be the front and this would be the back.
Thank you. So,
But then
what the
one
ARB
picture
said is the plan should be flipped. The front entrance, the front entrance, meaning, which is listed here as the one facing the parking lot, they want that to be flipped to face Main Street. So it wouldn't be the one with these little arches facing Main Street, it would be the more plain one facing Main Street.
And the arches would be on the inside then?
Right, into the parking lot.
Like you just changed the front, the rear view to front and the front to rear.
Right, that's
correct.
what they say they want. And then if you look at the floor plans, which I provided, if you look at the one on top, which is the lower level, the top of the plan is the one facing Main Street, and the bottom is the one facing the parking lot. So if you look at the entry, you come in through the covered entry, and you go into the living room. And the dining room and the kitchen are facing Main Street. What they say is the dining room, kitchen entrance should face the parking. So they want the whole unit to be flipped around.
I think personally, I was there at that meeting, Jeff couldn't be there. I believe that, what's the man's name who did the scratching on the, wrote the thing on?
Roy
Roy.
Sokolowski?
Yeah, Roy. I believe Roy was confused. That's what I think, because then he started picking on, Jeff's, putting the door in the middle of the room, you know, where he said that should be put into the corner. But then we're defeating a lot of the things that we were trying to do in the first place. I don't think he understood, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, I just heard some secondhand that there was a concern about people putting things out the door facing Main Street, but again, that's not.
Right, one of them mentioned that, all they had visions were garbage and, bicycles, you know, in full view of the public. In other words, now we've turned the building around, and there's on the back porch.
But you have to have you have to have an entrance and an exit.
I'm sorry?
You have to have an entrance and an exit, you have to have the two doors.
They have a door, they have
I
a,
was just saying, because if you
No,
don't,
yeah.
then just make it look like a false entrance.
they do have a door facing Main Street. It's a functional door, correct?
Yeah, you need that, that's what
Yep.
I'm saying.
Yeah, and the one thing I would say is that they don't show any sort of, pad outside the door, so that may be something that
On
we
the,
need to show.
on the one on Main Street, right. And the, yeah, 'cause I just have the little walkway going up to it.
Oh, 'cause, yeah, you have the walkway, if I'm not incorrect, you have the walkway going from the public sidewalk and along the back of the building, along the parking lot, correct?
Yeah, but from Main Street, I also have,
Sidewalk coming off Main Street.
Any minutes from the ARB?
No, there's no minutes,
They don't take them.
Carissa, there's no minutes from the AIB.
on SP 4.2,
Okay.
one of the thoughts were just connecting bringing a sidewalk, well, almost like that. bringing a
Right,
sidewalk
but
to-
that's not shown on the site plan itself.
There's a blow up of it.
Right,
on
but it's
SP
not
4.2.
shown on SP1.
Right, I think,
So
yeah,
I
there
think
should
you
have been a
need
bubble.
to show
right.
that, yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
But now, would you guys be opposed to not having the walkways going to the public walkway and then just having a little sitting area here?
Well, that would be up to the board, really.
You know, the whole thought was that you get out of your car in the parking lot and then you enter the front entrance of the dwelling, not walk around to the front entrance. And then if you do wanna have, the back of the unit would have a little sitting area where you can have a table and chair, you
When
wanna
you
have a
say
couple.
the back, you mean?
Main Street.
Right, because the plan right now doesn't show like any sort of porch, patio area, facing Main Street.
On
And that
the-
could be a concern, I guess, of the
Yeah.
ARB,
Right.
that
I
people
see
would
that
have
point.
stuff back there,
Right.
or in the front. Along the south portion, along the road.
Is the proposal now, the latest is elevation 4? Is that the one I'm talking about from Main Street? 'Cause that's the one I like from Main Street, because
That's correct,
that's what you're proposing?
that's the proposed elevation,
Is
correct.
the one, the little.
Yeah.
What do you think of that elevation 4 there?
But that's what they had recommended, right?
No.
No, they
that's-
wanted to
that's what
flip it
we
around.
That's what
But
we-
did they wanna flip it around the way the interior was designed or the way the
Both.
exterior looked?
Both.
Because I mean, I think this does look better facing Main Street, but I do see
Well,
their point
the
of
thing that's-
why they, don't want stuff as if it was in a backyard facing Main Street.
Right, but I just wanted to be clear that as shown on SP1, they're not showing a patio, but
Well, there's a blow up
there's a
detail
blow up
of it.
that just shows basically a walkway and a walkway under the
Patio.
porch area.
Correct.
Are you providing a berm on East Main Street?
We're gonna have, landscaping, but not a berm. I mean, we wouldn't be opposed to doing, even if it's.
I was
one
thinking
or
of
two
just a
foot berm.
question of equipment, bicycle or something you stored there, well, if you have a berm, there's the possibility of least shielding.
Definitely would not be opposed to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
we do
that,
on Main Street, though.
I mean, the title page shows like a picket fence, which again isn't shown on the plan, I don't think.
It's noted on the plan, I believe, but then that's what that SP 6? SP 4. That's the detail of that.
Okay, the plan as, the landscape plan as shown just shows lawn, just lawn along East Main Street.
That's fine.
So, I guess the question is, does the board want maybe us to ask ARB representative to come to talk to you about what their recommendations, what they mean to them?
So we have different sizes on EL4 and
EL4 and
EL2.
EL2 are buildings A and B, which are facing Main Street.
Right.
The
2 is not as big
Two
as 4. Correct?
what are you talking about? No, the top one is the elevation facing the parking lot, which is facing north. It says front elevation, but it's the one facing the parking lot. The one on the bottom, that says rear elevation, Main Street,
Right.
it's really the front elevation, it's facing Main Street. So, as you can see, there's these little, archways over the doors, which kinda gives it a
Little character.
a little character. So, I mean, it's just my opinion, I think that looks okay facing Main Street, the board may have other opinions. I don't know, I'm not quite sure about why they wanted to flip the interior. So if the board would want additional information from the ARB, I could certainly invite the chairman
The
or
rear
to come and talk to you about it.
They have to put them on the front entrance, we'll put them there, just put those on there.
to do that.
I said,
You know,
what's,
the-
I mean,
the
there's
interior?
nothing
What's up
in
to us?
writing. You're going from,
They can't.
Eddie, you're going from board to board. I mean, something should be passed on to this board in writing.
Reasoning.
Yeah.
Would you like me to ask the rationale for this?
And can you ask it to be typed?
Okay. That's no problem.
What about just putting these little archways on both sides?
Well, you have different windows and, I mean, the architecture's a little different too, right?
Well, it's over the doorway, that's all it is. I
That
kinda
would
think
probably-
it adds something to the entrance, which would be on the inside.
You see, this is covered,
Yeah.
this is covered, this is not.
And if you look at, like the L1.
This has got a
We got
sloping
three.
roof. See, this is all sloping
That
roof.
door that's
So this comes out.
got the
Oh, I
reverse
see.
gable on it
Underneath.
facing
Yeah,
Main
yeah.
Street.
Oh.
On the other units, it's a sliding glass door going to the
Right,
below patio
if you look on the site plan, the building's further interior to the site. The rear elevation has a slider going out to a patio.
They're not on Main Street.
No.
The ones with the sliders are not on Main Street.
I would like to know
Yeah,
the
put it
reason,
in one in
better
one, the whole
explanation
thing.
as to why they
Just put
want
something
it.
over
Again, I don't think he understood it. I don't think he fully understood it.
Well, I would hope they did,
Well, he
but-
criticized that door that was facing their way rather than, realizing that it replaced a sliding glass door, or whatever, it could have been a swing door.
It's a slider,
It was a slider.
All right, so I can, definitely ask them. And I'll forward whatever they have to say.
These buildings are here.
It seems to me like elevation 4 is aesthetically the best looking one.
Well,
I don't know why we
elevation
wouldn't want that
4
facing
and
Main Street.
elevation 2 are exactly the same, correct, Joe?
I'm sorry,
For building A and B are exactly the
Correct,
same.
yes, correct.
And then the buildings to the, more interior of the site are exactly the same too, except they're showing a slider,
Right,
correct?
and that's where we took the slider and because it was facing Main Street,
Yeah.
we put the regular single door in with the reverse gable over it.
Okay,
There we go.
thank you very much.
All right, so what happens from here?
Well, it doesn't sound like the board disagrees with you.
Okay.
But we do want a better explanation from ARB as to why they're requesting this, because it doesn't all add up.
Okay, so, in regards to time, because time is money and time,
I know.
I mean, we're.
You could probably email them tomorrow or tonight, tomorrow.
Yeah.
And, if we don't hear back within it's the holidays, but, soon enough, we'll have to make a decision.
Their decisions aren't binding. It's right.
Right, they're
Okay.
recommendations to the planning board, so.
Okay, so it could be within.
Going further into this,
You're
when I was
welcome.
just looking at it, I think
Next year.
the drainage is gonna be. a
Either way,
problem.
it's next year.
As far as the drainage, because of the
Thank you so
high
much.
elevation.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
12 months. Plus
Oh, there's my
spoke to
copy.
the health department.
And the folder.
Yes, we have, yep, we're tying into the existing,
You good, you
the
gonna
street, yep,
There is,
yep, we're all
done.
set with that.
All right,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
Take
very
care,
much.
Jeff.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right, guys, thank you.
Item 4 on the agenda, Real Life Church, Wading River.
I'm sorry?
Real Life Church, Wading River. Is that Greg's?
That's correct. Give me the left. See if I can find him. Karen, could you just see if Greg's outside?
Oh, sure.
right, Greg.
All right, so good afternoon, gentlemen. Just doing a quick recap because it has been a while since the Real Life Church of Wading River has been before you, gentlemen. Just to give you a quick recap, we have a site plan application. This is going to be a final site plan application to construct an addition to an existing church. The addition consists of a 2,925 square foot first floor congregation area with a 2,952 square foot basement addition, along with lighting, landscaping, parking, drainage, and sanitary improvements, as well as utilizing a off-site satellite parking area, which is located on the west side of Dogwood Drive. The main church parcels are on the east side. The approval of this application did require a special permit from the town board for building within a required side yard setback, which they received. The application did require relief from the Riverhead Zoning Board of Appeals for exceeding the allowable impervious coverage. They did receive that relief from the zoning board with a couple of conditions, being that fencing was to be installed along the southern and eastern property boundary, and that the satellite parking area shall be included in the certificate of occupancy. The project was reviewed and approved by the Architectural Review Board, and this planning board did grant preliminary approval by resolution 18-88 dated December 20th of 2018. The applicant was required to prepare a stormwater pollution prevention plan, which took a little bit of working through, but they got that approval. In the town engineer's email dated November 8th, they just had two sort of final housekeeping pieces, which were completed and signed certification statement forms and certification of completion of proof of erosion and sediment control training. As I spoke with the pastor, Matt Greco, he's now identified his contractors that he's going to be using for the job, so I spoke to Drew and he had no problem making submission of those informations conditioned upon a building permit. Just to review a couple of the final details that are very pertinent to the site. Being that the main church parcel, now as they exist right now, there are two tax map numbers. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, we will require proof that the parcels have been merged. But the total combination of uses between congregation area, meeting rooms in the basement, offices and such, on the main parcel required 88 parking spaces. They were only able to provide 69 parking spaces, so that's why it's critical and it's captured within the resolution that the church must retain the satellite parking lot under their ownership. We're gonna have, I spoke with Dick Ehlers, we will have them file covenants on both of these properties to that effect. One of the conditions, they must retain it. The approval of this site plan application does not vest the satellite parking area with any principal use. It's going to be considered an accessory use to the church, and that if the church does elect to sell the satellite parking on some area at some point in the future, prior to the sale, the applicant must apply for and receive relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals for the lack of being able to provide 19 parking spaces.
Did you say that you want to merge the two parcels?
So yes, right now
Are you going to merge them? Or you
Yeah,
asking-
yes, right now they exist as two parcels. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the church, they will have to merge those parcels. There were some comments from Mr. Gaudiello. He did review the plans in connection with his prior comments. They do need to provide earthwork calculations, which they've done through the SWIP process, so they will get that information to us. And if they need a permit from the town board, that'll be addressed prior to the issuance of a building permit.
That merger has to go before the health department.
The merger has to go before the health department.
What's the width of all the parking stalls?
The width of the parking stalls is all 10 by 20.
Where does it say to 10? I can't find that.
I mean, I scaled it out.
Yeah,
Yeah, just make sure it's clear. Good point.
So I mean, I can include that as a condition, because we did have some changes that needed to be made.
Yeah, let's make it as clear as we can.
Prior to the signature of the Mylar, plans shall be revised to identify width of parking stalls. All right, so there were comments from Ms. Vinnie,
regarding the earthwork, and if they need a excavation permit from the town board, that'll be required prior to issuance of a building permit. One of the conditions was that from preliminary approval, they needed to show a crosswalk here. Vinnie recommended that they just show ramps, details of curbing, so instead of having a crosswalk to nowhere. And I also said that they need to put just pedestrian crossing signage at that point. Any work within the town right-of-way will need a town highway permit, which will be a condition prior to the issuance of a building permit. Let's see, final covenants, parking, and that's it really. The biggest thing was the importance of retaining the satellite parking lot across the street and capturing the approvals and the conditions on covenants and filing them on both properties. Beyond that, it was revised to comply with town fire marshal comments regarding the fire striping, the width of the access road. And that's it.
The church was okay with, what you talked about today?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the resolution's gonna be amended to,
Yes, it will be amended. I'll put it, and I'll get this to Carissa. Within condition 22, we'll add it as condition 22II, and I will reflect the rest of them to amend that. They'll just say plans shall be revised to identify the typical width of the parking stalls throughout the site.
okay,
Good job, Rick.
thank you. Okay, no public hearings this afternoon. Any comments from the public on the resolutions? Any public comment on resolutions?
Gee, no,
Okay, no comment.
Make a motion that we move resolution number 117, which is the Donnelly Residence, chapter 219, secret determination. So
Second.
moved.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve resolution 117, the Donnelly Residence, chapter 219, as an unlisted action. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is approved.
I'll move resolution 118, Real Life Church of Wading River as amended.
Second motion?
A motion made and seconded to approve resolution 118 as amended for Real Life Church of Wading River for final site plan approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is approved.
I'll move resolution 119, resolution granting extension for Calverton Manor subdivision, minor subdivision. I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to approve resolution 119 for Calverton Manor for a 90-day extension. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is approved.
I'll move resolution 120 of the major residential subdivision of Caffald Farm, that's been here a while, granting a 90-day extension of the preliminary plat.
Second the motion?
Motion made and seconded to approve resolution 120 for major residential subdivision, Cowfold Farm, for a 90-day extension. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is approved. Any public comment on any matter in front of the planning board? Any public comment? Okay,
Make a motion that we move the minutes of the December 5th, 2019 planning board meeting. So moved.
I'll second it, December 5th.
okay, motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of December 5th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Other business. So we had some comments made at the last planning board meeting, and I believe Jefferson wants to address the board in regard to them.
It was a meeting that I was not in attendance at, and Barbara Blass came to the podium at the end of the meeting and had questions about certain solar farm applications. Specifically had to do with S-Power One. She wanted to know why Nextera was not included in the supplemental of the EIS. And the way she presented it was something didn't pass the smell test, something nefarious had happened. And nothing could be farther from the truth. What happened was the year prior to Nextera had already been submitted the year prior to the adoption of the supplemental for S-Power One. Remember, we did the supplemental for the S-Power One solar farm application. The year before that, Jesse Seaman was an employee of ours. He reported to me, and Nextera came in at the same time that we're going through the S-Power One's solar farm application. He knew about the, S-Power one, he was working on that for the town, and he knew about Nextera Solar Farm, because it had been submitted. We did not present it to the planning board because it was not deemed complete. Jess Seaman left employment of the town at the end of that year. The subsequent year, the planning board hired Jeffrey to review the supplemental EIS prepared by the applicant's consultant, VHB. You take a look at his report and review of it, Nextera is not in there. Jeffrey did not report to me, he was not my employee, he was employee of yours. Why Jeffrey did not include Nextera in his review, I don't have a clue.
On SP1.
On SP1, correct. So, I had nothing to do with that, Greg Berman had nothing to do with that. There's nothing evil, or I had no intention, and I did not deliberately withhold any information from you. So I was taken aback by her comment that somehow, we were deliberately implied there was, that we were withholding information from you, and there was none of that. That would be a breach of my ethics. I'm a member of the American Planning Association and the AICP, I'm certified. That would be a breach of my code of ethics.
Well, I don't,
So,
she didn't say that. She didn't say that.
There was
but-
the implication, and I just want to defend my position as professional.
No, I understand that, but the question really was, that the information that was posted online,
Uh-huh.
that's where she got her dates from, and it appeared that while the supplemental review was going on for S-Power One, that the town had already received, the planning department had already received the application for Nextera.
Correct.
And why wasn't that included? So, it was really a question of the dates, and the question was, did we have that in hand while that review was taking place?
Nextera was submitted, and again, I did not supervise Jeffrey in his review of that. Why he chose not to include that, or maybe he missed it, I don't know. He was certainly aware of it because he was employed when Nextera came in. And I have not asked him about that.
So, after thinking about it a little bit, I briefly recall that when Nextera was originally submitted, it was deemed incomplete and returned to them?
Yeah, there were, I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but I believe on or about September 4th of 2018 is when the application was initially submitted. Procedurally, yeah, it was incomplete, the pages weren't collated, it was impossible to review.
It was a
I sent a
mess.
letter to that effect. I don't believe they submitted revised plans, I wanna say December or January, when they actually made the resubmission to us.
They have to reapprove SP1 probably.
No, I don't think those two applicants, I don't think they were really.
That was the Article 10 one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Article 10. But yeah, so I mean, it was in our possession. Members were made aware, just, hey, you know, we have the next solar farm application in. Wasn't reviewed until, you know, early 2019, and then it moved forward, but yes.
So, her statements seem to be accurate as far as the dates of the review and the date that it was received?
Correct, yes.
But there's no explanation that you could give because he wasn't working under your supervision?
That is correct.
So, he was working under the town board supervision?
Yours. The planning board retained him to review the supplemental.
But we don't have the authority
You make the recommendation to the town board to pass the budget to retain him, and then
We
because.
worked with him through the process, but we
Correct.
didn't actually retain him.
Through the secret process, you have the right to retain consultants yourself. And I don't know if it was a town board resolution or a planning board resolution, but it was the planning board that said, we want Jeff Seaman to review this supplemental, to which.
In
we
your
did.
opinion, of both of you, do you think it would have changed anything, for that supplemental review?
No.
So it's really a procedural question on timing? Okay.
And again, there was nothing nefarious afoot. I did not, nor did Greg, deliberately withhold any information from you.
Well, I think, you know, going forward, we all should pay closer attention, not that no one did, because we've learned a lot about some of the solar companies and how they conduct business, and we should just be on alert and make sure that everything is done thoroughly and properly, going forward, because it just seems as though, you know, even with the Article 10,
seems to get lost.
Not lost, but they just seem to be several steps ahead of us and the town for that matter. So I think it's just, a lesson learned to be more aware and conscious going forward with these solar applications.
Just to interrupt for a minute. Is it possible, does it make sense as far as you're concerned, because you're the head of the department, to make some kind of a preliminary checklist so that it can be followed with regard to watching if there are 2 different, 3 different solar companies that are trying to come in, that we kinda keep them together so that the board is aware? In other words, we knew that perhaps we may have known that there was another one coming on board, but because it wasn't put together, if Jeffrey forgot to, mention it or whatever, does it make any sense to try to put something in place that would tie them together so that we would know what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Cause there could be a situation where we don't know that something's about to come up.
Yeah, the question is how do we get the how are you made aware of?
Right.
And I've been thinking about that, I don't have an answer for you at this time, but.
I think the board kinda sent the message that if there's another application,
Yeah.
let us know right away.
Yeah, right.
And that could be just simple, we could let you, if we receive, when we receive an application, correspondence can be sent to the board, hey, here's applications that we received, whether or not they're solar applications, because the way the review on solar is trending, any application, I don't think we should look at solar different from any industrial development application,
No,
because
it's just any
the
new
the
application.
questions that have been raised would be pertinent to any other type of development. So I mean, it could just be as simple as, board, we received an application, such and such a date, brief synopsis, not a full review, but,
Well, look at
something that we could
This whole
incorporate.
Gentai thing right now, this whole Gentai, think about it. Maybe, I don't know if we
Well,
could've.
I don't think that
something
one's coming
different.
back to us until the
No,
town board makes a
no,
decision.
that's right.
They have to make a, secret determination, and then they have to make a special permit determination, and we don't know which way that's gonna go as of yet.
Where is NextEra now? Town
Waiting,
board?
town board, well, they gotta make a secret determination, and then they have to do the, special permit.
I'm sure that's gonna be
Who else is
in
in
the
the
new year.
pipeline? Anything
Yeah.
else? What else is?
In terms of solar or?
We got the Article 10.
That's it, yeah.
Well, that's it, but it's.
There's not much more left, I mean, it appears to be maxed out, I mean, you're talking over 660 acres.
acres, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that there couldn't be other applications, but right now, affirmatively, we have no other applications that we're reviewing for solar.
And nothing's been submitted to us.
So I was reading the, planning publication that we get, I think quarterly. I think I shared it with some, but I think this ruling is interesting and really applies to Riverhead. It's almost identical to what's going on here. Now there's a court decision that I think the town board should really take a look at.
But that court decision, because I did read that article, that court decision, someone had challenged, the way I read it and understood it, a town upstate had zoned solar for industrial areas. And they had someone had questioned whether they had violated secret in citing the solar within the industrial zones.
Right, but the court had went on to say that the town had the right to, control the, agricultural use in the zoning, and that could not be overruled. So, I really think it applies here, but I don't know what the town board's position is. I think we've made our position clear that this stuff was coming too fast and furious, and, I think the town was short-sighted, and now look what we're left with. We don't know what it's gonna be 20 years, and we got this Article 10 mega project coming, and now all of a sudden they're pumping the brakes. So, can't say that this board didn't warn them ahead of time, but, it really falls in their lap going forward.
And you have a new board coming, January 1.
I'm glad I don't live in this town.
Yeah.
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 One last thing, 2020 is gonna be an interesting year, we're gonna be starting our comprehensive plan update. You're gonna be an integral part of that, so.
What do you mean by update?
Redoing the
Are
whole
they
thing,
starting,
updating the whole thing.
I mean, are they starting,
Spending more money.
Are they giving us preliminaries, submitting preliminary reports?
We have, the contract hasn't been executed at this
Oh,
point.
okay.
Yep. But,
Can I make one final comment?
Yep.
Merry Christmas,
Yeah,
everybody.
that's motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Second.
Okay, happy holidays, everyone.
Same to you.
Guys, happy
May
New
everybody
Year.
get the hot
Everybody have a
rod,
good
may
one.
everybody get the hot rod of your dreams.
Yeah, it is.